college football rooting interest, you're going to tell me to root for Alabama and Florida, aren't you?
Well, luckily for you, Alabama doesn't play this week. So I'm going to talk about who you have to root for each game. Yes. And I separated rooting interest by 5 different tiers. Okay. The tiers are this. One tier is based on who you would not want to see if you reach the college football playoff. Like it's not whether or not you go, it's you just don't want to play this team if you get to the college football playoff. That's one tier. Okay.
Okay.
Another tier is games that you're not sure they would help you or hurt you yet because other things have to happen, but they likely would help you. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Another tier is games that it's not about who's a threat to you in the college football playoff. They just help your schedule strength. That the second tier is upsets that you root for, but they're not likely and they're not plausible, but they would help you. And then tier 1 are plausible, likely upsets that could happen that would help, plausible, likely outcomes that could happen that you want that could help your playoff chances. Do those tiers make sense?
A little. It's complicated. Which tier is pure hate for that team? That's what Smoky Mountain Red says.
That's not a college football playoff rooting interest. And if you think like that, you're a loser. Boom. Boom. I said it. Okay, now let's get
Smoky
to
Mountain Red's going to take you out back behind the woodshed. All right, go ahead.
By the way, as we start this, we've started our final scariest Vol challenge, final round, and it's Al Wilson, Jansen Jackson, Doug Atkins, and Reggie White. Who are you most scared of?
Right.
So let's get going. So starting with tier 5, these are teams that you just don't want to see them in the college football playoff if you get there. It's not that they'll affect you. And there's 2 games.
Georgia would be on there every week.
But yes, exactly. But Georgia's on a different tier, and I'll get there. But tier 5 is it's only group of 5 relative competition, which is this. You don't want to see Army or Navy in the college football playoff if you're Tennessee. That you don't want to touch those teams. You want them eliminated as much as possible because they could give you hell. So Navy doesn't play this week, but root for Air Force over Army. You want Air Force to beat Army because Air Force ain't going to the playoff. And you want Boise State to beat San Diego State because to make sure Army and Navy don't get in as the group of 5 team, you want Boise State to keep winning. So
I don't root against the service academies. I think that's wrong. And I bet you're the type of guy who doesn't even vote. Go ahead.
Dave thinks I hate the troops. Dave's about to be like, Caleb hates the troops. Yeah. Do you hate the troops? Wait. But do you love the troops or do you love Tennessee more? If you're a true Vol fan, you should prioritize the Vols over the troops.
Okay. Guys, yeah, we'll see what happens when China comes attacking. All right. What do you got?
So next one, tier 4. These are ones that I think you want them to go this way if you're a Tennessee fan, but it could work against you the other way. So tier 4 is this. Pittsburgh plays SMU this weekend. Pittsburgh's undefeated and SMU has 1 loss. I think you root for Pittsburgh over SMU to knock out SMU because Pittsburgh does play Clemson down the road and SMU could actually win out if they play this weekend. I think Pittsburgh will lose to Clemson and they could get upset again. I think they might be a fraudulent undefeated team, but because of that, you want Pittsburgh to beat SMU, but it could go the other way. Another one is Duke over Miami. Again, that's based on the idea that Duke will lose another game the rest of the year because they do have 2 losses, but you want Duke to beat Miami because then Miami and Clemson both have 1 loss, and that raises the possibility that the loser of the ACC title game does not get an at-large bid to the tournament. You want to eliminate multiple bids from conferences if you can.
Okay, what tier's next? Because this is more complicated than my LASIK surgery.
All right, tier 3.
By the way, is why I'm not wearing contacts or glasses.
Tier 3. This is to help Tennessee schedule strength. You want Oklahoma to beat Maine. You want UTEP to beat MTSU. You want Mississippi State to beat UMass. You want NC State to beat Stanford, and you want Vanderbilt to beat Auburn because you want your schedule strength to be beefed.
Who's Kent State playing?
They don't play this weekend, funny enough. Yeah. So
I think you just want them to disband and pretend that never happened. Exactly. Tier 2 coming up. Last look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hunt.
To visit cctis.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at cctis.com. Simply the best.
Tier 2 on this Halloween.
These are unlikely upsets, but if they happen, they would really help Tennessee. Texas Tech and Iowa State. You want Texas Tech to beat Iowa State. Iowa State's undefeated. You want to get that Big 12, whittle that down a little bit. Houston over Kansas State. You'd love to see Louisville beat Clemson. You would love to see Minnesota beat Illinois. And for purpose, this actually doesn't affect you schedule strength or play, but it does affect you playoff wise and also your SEC standings. You want Florida to beat Georgia. You do want Florida to beat Georgia.
Okay.
So that's tier 2. Now, tier 1, likely upsets. Not likely, but more plausible. These are the ones that you should be circling and watching this weekend more than any other. Okay,
let me tell you about this first. AsiaCafe.org, AsiaCafe.org. You can check them out, one of Hook's Hangouts, and it's where I've eaten twice this week. Treat yourself to authentic Asian cuisine, handcrafted from guarded family recipes. 5 locations to choose from, AsiaCafe.org. And they've got that Brazilian cocoa energy booster premix instant white coffee that's phenomenal. It's awesome. All right, Caleb, tier 1.
Tier 1 is this. These are, okay, you want Michigan to beat Oregon. That's at Michigan, so it's possible, Dave, because they're going through time zones. The big ones you want Michigan State to beat Indiana. Like you want, and I know Dave really wants that, but you want Indiana just out of the picture. So yes, they need to.
I want Indiana to get lost going to the stadium.
And Indiana still plays Ohio State.
Like 4 buses just driving around in circles.
Yeah, because Indiana's undefeated, so you want Michigan State to beat Indiana. The other one is...
Did you hear their coach, by the way, said Google me recently?
Did he really? Yeah. I was just saying 4 Christmases. Google me, and then he says the B word. All right, you did want the Penn State-Ohio State game. You want Penn State to beat Ohio State. Penn State has no losses. Ohio State has 1. But if Penn State beats Ohio State, then all of a sudden, Dave, you're looking at Ohio State potentially being knocked out of the race. If Ohio State wins, they're both still in it firmly. And there's a chance that Ohio State could get knocked out of the race. So you want Penn State to win.
Hot.
I don't think there's any way Ohio State gets knocked out of the race.
If they lose this game, they have 2 losses. They lose another one, they're out.
Well, I know, but I think they'll be 10-2, and I think they will do everything possible to keep them in, even possibly 9-3. Because who are you going to take out of the Big Ten?
Penn State, and again, you're Penn State and Oregon. I mean, they'll probably take 3 teams like they will the SEC, 3 to 4, but still Penn State and Oregon. And that's why, but again, you want to spread your chances. So you want any of these teams to have a potential to be knocked out. Ohio State has more of a chance than Penn State. If you look at their schedule, Penn State loses this game, they're still probably going to finish 11-1 and go. So you want Penn State to win. Now we get to the 2 key ones, SEC ones. Tennessee's competition for the playoff spot, you want South Carolina to beat Texas A&M. You know, because Texas A&M is a team in Tennessee's way to make the playoff. Yep. But the most important game you should watch this weekend.
Wait, let me play the opposite. Don't you want Texas A&M and who's second right now in the SEC?
LSU, you're talking about to play for the SEC title?
Yeah.
Theoretically, you're right, but Dave, I've talked about that for a while, but I don't think Tennessee's I don't think they have the luxury yet to hope for stuff like that. Does that make sense? Yeah. They don't have the luxury yet to hope for stuff like that. They need to hope they're getting in at this point.
We're talking main course. The apple pie is still in the oven.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Exactly. So the most important one for that is one that could
shot in the dark analogy that actually landed.
It did. A matter of fact, one time John Chavis said when they were facing Spurrier's trickery, and they're like, how do you deal with Spurrier's trickery all the time? And he said, well, you got to worry about the meat and potatoes before you can worry about that stuff. I'm like, well, Spurrier's whole meat and potatoes is trickery. So like, okay.
Yeah. You know what's meat and potatoes? Is the draw play into the 2001 SEC championship game. That's damn meat and potatoes. It doesn't get any more meat and potatoes than that. Yeah. And when you have it's the draw stew.
And you had the best interior defensive line in college football history and couldn't stop it because wait, what was it? We weren't prepared for the change of offense. What do you got to do to prepare for the quarterback draw? Let me draw up this scheme to stop the quarterback draw?
Yeah, okay. You go to both of your defensive tackles and you say shade a gap, and that's what you do. It's not any sort of, they didn't have to go 3-4. All right, so what else? All right,
and finally, the most important game to watch this weekend if you're a Tennessee fan.
Tennessee.
Outside of Tennessee, this is for rooting interest of other.
Okay.
Arkansas, Ole Miss, and you want Arkansas to beat Ole Miss, and that's twofold. It helps your schedule strength, Dave, but it knocks Ole Miss out of the college football playoff race as a contender.
That is hands down. I mean, the confusing way that you dealt that out. That is hands down the most on point one because Ole Miss would have 3 losses. They would be essentially out of the running for the college football playoff. And if there's a bunch of 10-2 teams, somebody's going to get left out, and it could be Tennessee. Plus, it makes that Arkansas loss look better. I'm totally with you on those.
Yes, that should be a tier on its own, honestly, because it helps Tennessee in like multiple ways. So yeah, I think that's the most tier 1. Watch that game over any other game, guys.